The men that you're about to meet are the exact reason why single women everywhere should probably just stay single. Oh, and the same goes for certain single men as well. Enjoy.
The evidence I have heard shows you to be a jealous man, soaked in self-pity, a man who holds women in utter contempt.
That's putting it mildly, Mr. Justice Benetton. This is the judge who sentenced Kyle Clifford for the 3 horrendous murders that he committed on the 9th of July 2024, his sentencing having come in March 2025. Now viewer, if I've got you hooked on the story so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. This triple killer is going to cost the taxpayer millions because he's paralysed. That means in prison he needs lots of extra care. He paralysed himself in a failed suicide attempt that he made just before he got arrested for the murder of his ex-girlfriend Louise Hunt, her mother Carol and another sister in the family, Hannah. He committed those murders in the home of his ex-girlfriend on the 9th of July 2024. In addition, he raped Louise and held her captive for 2 hours before murdering her, and the judge of his trial said it must have become obvious to Louise in the course of her captivity that Clifford had already killed her mother.
This is no occasion to subject the family and friends of your victims to any delay or suspense. I therefore make clear at once that for each of these 3 murders, the sentence will be one of life imprisonment with a whole life order. That means a sentence from which you will never be released.
And let me clarify that at the time of his sentencing, Clifford was in his 20s. Arthur Simpson-Kent murdered his partner, who was a former Eastenders actress called Cyan Blake, and she was 43, and he also killed their 2 sons, Zachary, aged 8, and Amon, aged 4. He did so by beating and stabbing all 3 of them at their home in Ayres in London in December 2015. Police believe that Simpson-Kent committed the murders because Cyan was planning to leave him. He buried the bodies of the 3 victims in the garden and then ran away to Ghana, but he was later caught and brought back to the UK. He got his whole life order in October 2016. Damien Bendall committed his horrendous acts under the influence of drugs. He murdered, first of all, his girlfriend who was pregnant with his child. Then he murdered her 2 young children. And then he murdered the school friend of one of the children who was staying over. This all took place in the Derbyshire town of Killamarsh in September 2021. He also confessed to the rape of one of the children, a little girl.
I don't know what happened. All right, come to me. Mate, have you got anything on you that you shouldn't have? No, there's no weapons or nothing.
Right, do you just want to undo your coat? Have you armed yourself?
Yeah.
You have?
Have you stabbed yourself, mate?
I can see blood on your hands.
Yeah. Anywhere else?
Just my chest, 4 inches in with a bread knife.
Can we have a look?
Yeah, and one on the stomach. I bled quite.
Right, do you want to
Can we go down
No, just stay there.
I just don't want to be in front of everyone.
Alright, just around the corner.
Just walking wounded at the minute.
Alright, stand here. Stay here.
Right,
so
we told you, I know what's going to happen to you now, mate.
Well, I know it's going to happen when you go to prison, obviously, but again.
Why, what have you done? Have you done something to anyone else?
Yeah.
What have you done?
I've murdered 4 people.
07:47 hours, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence. Do not mention when questioned something later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Your arrest is necessary to protect you from harm, to prevent your disappearance, for a prompt and effective investigation. Okay? We're going to get you up, we're going to put you in the back of the van.
Recently, he's been involved in some kind of violence at the prison that he is being held in. It was over some workshop equipment, some, really harmful equipment, and he attacked someone with it. When I heard about that on TikTok, I looked at the comments of the TikTok and everyone was saying the same thing. Why are you letting somebody who killed 4 people, including 3 children, anywhere near workshop tools that can cause harm or death to others? Bendall got his whole life order in 2022.
Down!
4, stand by. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence. Do not mention any questions.
In November 2024, double murderer Marcus Osborne lost his appeal to have his whole life order overturned. Osborne killed his former girlfriend and her new partner in 2023 in the month of May in Huddersfield out of sexual jealousy. His ex-girlfriend, a lady called Katie Highton, who was 27, sustained all of 99 injuries in the attack from Osborne, while her new boyfriend, a guy called Mr. Harnett, was mutilated and left with 24 knife wounds. Osborne also raped another woman who he had held captive in the house. Osborne got his whole life order in early 2024. Mark Robinson was born in 1962. At 17, he joined the RAF. On the 27th of May 1979, he was home on leave for the spring bank holiday. He went round to the home of one of his neighbours, a 32-year-old woman called Patricia Wagner, who was a wife and a mother. He actually tricked his way into her house by pretending that he was drunk and had mistaken the house. In any case, the two got talking, had sex apparently, according to Robinson, and it came on his instigation. But then at the end, Mrs. Wagner apparently said that if Robinson didn't tell his mother that they had just had sex, she herself would, and apparently the thought of his mother finding out what he'd done with his married next door neighbour was just too terrifying to Robinson, and so he got hold of the cord of a lamp in Mrs. Wagner's home, wrapped it round her neck and strangled her to death. In March 1989, he came out of prison having done the 10-year minimum term of the life sentence that he got for Mrs. Wagner's murder. He met a 25-year-old lady called Sharon Morley in Wakefield. The couple soon moved to Billingham, and that started lots of arguments between the couple, all because Sharon wanted to move back to Wakefield. On the 19th of September 1989, Robinson discovered a photo of one of Sharon's former boyfriends, and in the argument that followed, he beat and stabbed Sharon to death. His original life sentence, which he got in 1989 for Sharon's murder, was later upgraded, thankfully, to a whole life order. Born in 1960, in 1995, David Tiley got 6 years for double rape. In March 2007, no more than 2 weeks after getting out, after getting into an argument with his fiancée, Susan Hale, in which she taunted him about something from his past, he stabbed the woman to death. This took place at their home in Southampton, South England. Susan was a disabled person, which was due to a degenerative brain disorder that made it really hard for her to walk. 8 days later, when Susan's carer, a married mother of 2 called Sarah Merritt, came round to give Susan a bath, Tiley tied her up, took her bank card and then went out and got 150 quid out with it. On returning, the man raped Mrs. Merritt and then stabbed her to death. He got his whole life order in June 2007. When Rashan Arshad murdered his wife and their 3 children in a so-called honour killing, he felt, quote, totally justified in what he did, unquote. That quotation comes from the police who were involved in the case. A 36-year-old taxi driver, Arshad beat his wife and 3 children to death with a rounder's bat at their home in Cheadle-Hulme, Manchester in July 2006. This then is how Uzma Rayhan, 32, Adam, 11, Abbas, 8 and Henna, 6 all lost their lives. According to investigating officers, Arshad felt his wife had brought the killing on herself by having an affair. This adulterous behaviour of Uzma's shamed the whole family, meaning that they all had to die, except the husband. If you're thinking that, at the very least, the 3 children, who were wholly innocent for crying out loud, should have been spared, sometime after getting caught, Arshad expressed regret for killing them. He got his forever prison sentence in 2007. John Sweeney, who was born in 1958, murdered two girlfriends of his 10 years apart and was already banged up for the attempted murder of another girlfriend of his when he learned that he was getting a whole life order for his two murders. A carpenter, Sweeney murdered Melissa Halstead, 33, a former model from Ohio in the US in 1990, before murdering Paula Fields, 31, a mother of three living in North London in 2000. He hacked each woman to death, dismembered them each, and then dumped their remains in canals in London and in Rotterdam. Likewise, he attempted to kill a third girlfriend with both an axe and a knife. I have no idea why the man did what he did. Police, furthermore, think he may have committed 3 other murders too. Sweeney got his whole life order in 2011. Billy White. He murdered his girlfriend, Lucy Ayres, in 2015, and then he got sentenced to 15 years as the minimum term of his life sentence. But then when he was in prison, like others before him, he murdered a fellow prisoner, someone called Brett Rogers. And the man himself was a convicted murderer, but as I say, murderers murdering other murderers, it's still murder, and it doesn't make any of them a hero. This was, again, at HMP Long Lartin, which is in Worcestershire. He got a whole life order in 2017. Marc Chivers, who was born in 1967, is the son of a British Army officer who was serving in Germany. Chivers was born and raised in Germany. In 1986, he met a lady called Sabine Rappold, and she soon became his girlfriend. In 1992, he strangled her with a rope and then buried her body in a shallow grave in Woodland and went on the run. He was caught and arrested 3 months later, and in 1993 he got a life sentence in Stuttgart. After doing 15 years for the murder of Sabine, in 2007 he was released but deported back to the UK. In July 2008, he had a girlfriend by this point and he attacked her. Her name was Maria Stubbings. He got 4 months in jail for battery of Maria, but they stayed together, and there were a number of other occasions when Chivers got out that Maria called the police on him, but nothing came of it until one point the police came round after Maria Stubbings got them over, but Chivers is the one who answered the door, and he told the police that she'd gone out. And then a few days later, in fact it was the very next day, they came round the first occasion on the 18th of December 2008. Then they came back the next day and they found Maria's body, which was hidden under a pile of clothes in the downstairs bathroom. This time Chivers strangled her with a dog lead. Perhaps he just didn't have any rope handy. He got his whole life order in December 2009. Mark Richard Hobson, who was born on the 2nd of September 1969, killed 4 people in North Yorkshire in July 2004. His first murder was that of his very girlfriend, Claire Sanderson, and he killed her at their home, which was near Selby. After that, he lured Claire's twin sister, Diane, to the home and then murdered her several days later. Afterwards, he fled the property and murdered an elderly couple who lived several miles away before going on the run. He was arrested soon after, 8 days after I think, when he was spotted hiding in bushes near a petrol station in North Yorkshire. A bin man who had a history of violence, drug addiction and alcoholism, Hobson pleaded guilty to all the charges against him in April 2005 and got his whole life prison sentence. His subsequent appeal for a lower tariff failed. Paul O'Hara's first murder was that of his girlfriend Janine Waterworth in, I think, 1998, or at least that's when he was sentenced for her murder. And then he was released around 2013, and of course, on being released, he went over to the home of his new girlfriend, Shirley Shenan, and that's where she was given evidence to 2 police officers about the domestic abuse that she'd suffered at the hands of O'Hara. He burst in, attacked the 2 police officers with a hammer, chased Shenan into the street, and then on catching up with her, he stabbed her to death. He got his whole life order in 2014. Anthony Ayres. Another man who killed 2 women several years apart, with a prison sentence for the first murder coming in between. So his first murder is the one that he committed in 1994, and the woman that he murdered was none other than his girlfriend. After he got out, which he did in May 2012, he kept a low profile for 3 years, and then on the 19th of November 2015, for whatever reason, he murdered 36-year-old mother of 1, Kelly Pierce, at a friend's flat in Canvey in Essex. He stabbed Kelly 40 times and then beat her to death. He got his whole life order in 2016. Born in 1950, in 1975, Michael Smith met a 19-year-old woman by the name of Sheila Deakin, and the two became a couple. However, the relationship was fraught in some way from the very off, and in an argument over a previous boyfriend of Sheila's, Smith strangled his girlfriend to death. Smith did 30 years for that murder. He learned nothing from that punishment though, since in August 2006 he battered his mate Peter Summers to death with a champagne bottle before stealing 8,000 quid from the man's home, this having been his reason for what he did. With that second murder, in May 2007, Smith got forever, a whole life prison sentence of course. Double murderer David Mitchell, who was born around 1968, is gay. However, originally he was straight. The proof of that is the fact that in 1990 he murdered his girlfriend. He did his second murder, which was that of his gay lover Robert Hind, 4 months after getting out of prison for the murder of his girlfriend. He murdered Robert Hind in the hostel that they were both living in after getting out of prison, where they met in December 2013. And his apparent reason for the murder was that he was really angry when, after they had sex, Hind told him that he was HIV positive. The court, however, when this came to trial, didn't believe him for a minute. They reckoned that he had known about it long before then, and therefore that wasn't the reason why he killed Robert Hind. He got his whole life order in 2015. Ian McLoughlin was born in 1958. Between 1970 and 1983, he was in and out of prison for a range of offences, including burglary and theft. In 1983, he beat his boyfriend Lendell Gatti over the head with a hammer and then strangled him with a towel. He was convicted of manslaughter and got 10 years, but that was reduced on appeal to 8 years, and then the man was released after only 5 years anyway. In September 1991, he got his new boyfriend, a barman called Peter Halls, to lie on the bed in a fantasy game and then killed him by stabbing him in the back. In 1992, he got life with a minimum of 25 years. In July 2012, he was let out of prison on day release, and he decided to use that day release to go around the home of ex-prisoner and SE ex-offender, 86-year-old Francis Corey Wright, who he'd met in prison, and rob him. And so that's what he did. He tied Corey Wright up while he searched his house, and he was just about to leave with a pillowcase full of family heirlooms when a neighbour by the name of Graham Buck came over to investigate the shouting that he'd heard. McLoughlin dragged Mr. Buck into the house and then killed him by stabbing him in the neck. In 2014, the 40-year minimum term that McLoughlin had got in 2013 for the murder of Mr. Buck was upgraded to a whole life order. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.